Good morning, friends. This is Yana Benun, and I want to share with those who are on this channel some news how psychopaths are thinking now. Okay, look at this news from August 13, 2020. And thank you, sister, for mailing this to me, emailing this to me. Sometimes what these people say, I just simply can't even fathom in my brain. Look at this. U.S. professor, psychoactive pill should be covertly administered to ensure lockdown compliance. Chemical moral enhancement. Remember this because they're putting fancy names now to everything they're doing. Okay? Chemical moral enhancement substances could help people reason about what the right thing to do is, argued Professor Parker Crutchfield. Professor Parker Crutchfield is a psychopath, people. Okay, Michigan, August 13, 2020. It says in an article so shocking it at first reads like satire. An ethics professor at Western Michigan University advocated for the promotion of psychoactive morality pills in order to alter the behavior of those skeptical of lockdown regulations, suggesting that such drugs could be made compulsory or administered secretly via the water supply. Wow, so he agrees with putting in your water secretly psychoactive pills so you comply with the lockdowns. Can you believe this? The article was published earlier this week in The Conversation, a news site focusing on content sourced from the academic and research community and supported by universities from around the world. The Conversation lists a number of UK universities as its founding partners. In the article, Parker Crutchfield argues that when someone chooses not to follow public health guidelines around the coronavirus, they are defecting from the public good, and that such defectors require chemical moral enhancement. Here we go, chemical moral enhancement substances to help them reason about what the right thing to do is. He said, "To me, it seems the problem of coronavirus defectors could be solved by moral enhancement. Like receiving a vaccine to beef up your immune system, people could take a substance to boost their cooperative pro-social behavior. Could a psychoactive pill be the solution to the pandemic?" Crutchfield writes. It's a far-out proposal that's bound to be controversial, he concedes, but nevertheless is one Crutchfield believes is worth at least considering given the importance of social cooperation in a struggle to get COVID-19 under control. As you can see, friends, and you are welcome to read the entire article, okay? But as you can see, we are surrounded by psychopaths, even in universities, and I'm talking about professors. You cannot trust today doctors, professors, none of them. Very few who truly understand what's going on. And I don't know what this man got paid for even saying such things, that they can secretly put psychoactive pills in your water so you comply with a medical tyranny and dictatorship. Anyway, let's move on to another subject. I wanted to point your attention to the article from August 17, 2020. It was by journalist Peter Hitchens. He wrote, "Wrecking the economy and a state-sponsored panic killed more people than COVID." Yes, you have to understand that the solutions for COVID are killing people more than COVID itself, which COVID is a hoax, a cold virus that we have lived with for millennia now, okay? Anyway, let's read up a little bit. My suspicion is that the wrecking of the economy and a state-sponsored panic of these times has killed more people than COVID ever did, by Peter Hitchens for the Mail Online. Actually, I have had enough. Well, I did too, Peter. I have had enough as well. So should you have had enough? The time has come for real discontent, or there will be no end to our mistreatment and humiliation by this government. This is the journalist Peter Hitchens. The call to call these people incompetent would be to pay them an over-generous compliment. I agree. We shall see in a minute what might be a better word. This is not personal grievance. By great good fortune, I managed a swift holiday a week ago and was not caught by any sudden government panic measure, though the holiday itself, in places I love, was a sad shadow of what it would once have been. So my anger about the crazy quarantining of travelers to France is not self-interested. This heartfelt smashing of the simple pleasures of thousands is futile act of spite. Do you know how many people officially died of COVID-19 in France during the past week? Fewer than 80. In April, official deaths in that country peaked at more than 1,400 in a single day. These figures of so-called cases mean nothing except that the authorities have been looking harder for such cases and finding them, even though the people involved are usually not ill. A similar panic in New Zealand concerns an outbreak in which, at the last count, one person was in hospital. And you know, friends, what's happening in New Zealand now. They are on full tyrannical lockdowns. Everything about the figures we are given has been fraudulent and wrong. We will never know how many people were listed as COVID deaths in this country, whose true cause of death was something else. The rules on classifying them were shockingly lax, and almost no post-mortem were held, so we can never check. But the London government was last week forced to admit that for some time its official death figures have been a wild overstatement of the facts. Now, these things he's writing are true about United States of America as well. Everything is a lie and overstatement because it's not about COVID, friends. And those people who are still thinking COVID is real, they need to wake up. Let me read a few highlighted things and then we'll move on. Even the fatuous health commissar, Matt Hancock, had to accept that for months his department had been publishing bilge as if it was information. My suspicion is that the wrecking of the economy and a state-sponsored panic of these times has killed more people than COVID ever did, and the research on this is piling up too, though the BBC would prefer not to mention that either. A paper submitted to the government's own scientific advisory group, SAGE, estimates that 16,000 people had died up to May 1st thanks to missed medical care following the shutdown of the country. They suggested another 26,000 could die by next March for the same reason. If these figures are right, and I believe they will be vindicated by hard research, the government's failing panic killed 2 people for every 3 who died of coronavirus, and that is assuming the COVID deaths figures are not inflated. The scale of this error is so great that the mind turns away from it. Add to it the slow but relentless destruction of the economy and a catastrophe in the schools, and you have even more to weep over. This is all now inevitable and only weeks away. What's only weeks away? More loss of jobs, friends, and recession. So this is what they achieved with the false pandemic, okay? And here, article from the July 28th, 2020, suicide deaths higher than COVID-19 deaths amid lockdown. CDC chief warns CDC admitted that more people died of suicide and probably will die of suicide than from COVID. So we have definitely suicide pandemic in the world, not COVID pandemic. Okay, what did he say? The CDC chief, he says we are seeing far greater suicides and deaths from drug overdose than deaths from COVID. And prolonged school closures may be more dangerous than coronavirus. And then the article goes on explaining what's happening to children and teenagers. So I highly recommend that you read this and that you spread this news to everyone, all of your friends and neighbors. Now, at the conclusion of this report, I want you to watch a 5-minute video. It was done by Be Inspired YouTuber. It already got almost 1 million views. And the name is It's Getting Really Serious. So just a minute. And with that, I will say goodbye for today. However, I will see you later on tonight on a special interview with someone on Israeli News Live channel.
It's getting really serious, folks. It's getting really, really serious. The world is in a very desperate situation right now, ladies and gentlemen. Things are changing extremely rapidly. We knew it was coming. We've been knowing it was coming for quite a while. But they're really ramping things up, and it is so important that people pay attention to what is happening. This whole thing has been going for 50 years. It's a plan that's been 50 years in the making. They've told us that. If you go to the World Economic Forum, and you look at some of the videos that they have there in the World Economic Forum, they tell you this is a plan they've had in the making for 50 years. They live, where it mentioned the date of 2025 as when this plan comes to fruition. And then someone else actually also pointed out in the film Captain America, at the end of Captain America, when he runs out into Times Square, and what do you see in the signs? And what's that doing there, folks? And what is that sign even supposed to be? I mean, what's it doing there on a billboard in Captain America in 2011? Here's an interesting rabbit hole, actually. And I haven't been able to confirm all of this, but it's interesting. If you look at Moderna, Moderna is in stage 3 of their vaccine development. And the vaccine is already there. They're just pretending that they've got to develop it. It's already developed. Moderna, when Moderna was formed, the first CEO of Moderna was a young Cornell graduate by the name of Anthony Fauci. Interesting. He was the first CEO of Moderna. The company Moderna, there was a company in World War II that was heavily involved with what happened in World War II. And I don't buy into the official story of World War II, but there were certain experiments that were being done, and there was a company that was heavily involved by the name of IG Farben. IG Farben was run by a Jewish guy turned Nazi, later turned American, by the name of George Soros. George Soros broke up IG Farben and he formed Moderna. One of the main financial backers of Moderna. So you've got Bill Gates, you've got Anthony Fauci, you've got George Soros, all involved in this whole Moderna thing. And one of the main financial backers of Moderna up until his alleged death was one Jeffrey Epstein. Interesting little circle of friendship, don't you think? And these people, mates, it's unbelievable. Unbelievable. It's frustrating. It's frustrating to look at all this shit. It really is. Even with waking people up, I mean, there's other ways to look at this. There's other ways to look at what's really going on here. I mean, half of it is just frustration because it's going to come here. I mean, I don't want to get to the point where I can't go to the shop. And that's what it'll get to. I mean, they're saying, we're not going to make it mandatory. It's like they don't make it mandatory for the people on Centrelink here who receive Centrelink payments. They don't make vaccinations mandatory for them either. What they do is they send them a notice saying, listen, we're going to reduce your payments by, I think it's something like 29 or $30 a fortnight until you get your children vaccinated. And we're not just going to reduce it by, $30 or $29 a fortnight this fortnight. We're going to do it this fortnight, and then we'll reduce it again, another $29 the next fortnight, and then we'll do it again the next fortnight, and this reduction will continue until you've got your children vaccinated. So we'll just basically reduce you to the point that you have no income whatsoever because we want to protect your children. That's what they do, but we're not going to make it mandatory. It's not mandatory. We'll give you a choice. You don't have to go and get vaccinated. You could just let your payments get reduced to zero, or you could go get a job. But of course, you won't be able to work in any of the industries unless you're vaccinated. But we're not going to force you to get vaccinated. This is how they do it, folks. This is how they do it. This is this whole thing, And it's all because people, won't stand up for themselves. They're not prepared to be human beings, realize that they don't have any owners. We can do what we can, but it's not up to us to wake everybody up. If people don't get it, then they don't get it. And if they don't get it now, ignorance is truly a choice in this day and age, folks. If they can't see what's happening, then I don't really know how to help them from that point, But we've got to face the reality that, a lot of people probably won't make it through. A lot of people probably won't get it.
Okay. Thank you for watching, and you have a good day.